Okay, folks, here we go.
Here we go. Let's have a good show.
1B, stand by.
Yeah.
Yacht, stand.
Yeah,
Take
just
it.
like get at midfield. Just go
Take
right
it.
now.
Take
Go to
it.
camera 3.
Can
3.
you
Go
pull-
to the gate.
Thank you.
Just like that.
I'll just go ahead.
Yeah, graphics 2 is going to be up for the first.
Okay.
Go right now. Go to camera 3. Go. Yep.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Can you
go to the gate. Just like that. No music.
I'm going to hand to Q. Sophie.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it.
On radio in the Canal Zone.
All right, guys, mic check.
SBTM.
Go ready.
Okay, Ricky, mic.
Wait for it.
Yep, I am ready.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. 2.5.
Willie, mic check.
Yep, let's go.
1B, stand.
Ten,
Couple minutes.
9,
1B, stand.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Okay, and go for it, guys.
There we go, guys. It is 8:02, actually. A little bit behind here, but 8:02 Eastern Time, 5:02 Pacific Time, and, of course, 7:02 Canal Zone Time.
Canal
Happy at the
Zone.
Balboa Yacht Club. Ricky, how's it going, man? Happy Friday, brother.
You know what? I'm loving Fridays. Like always, our favorite time of the week to hang out with all our fellow Zonians and everybody else as well. Like always, guys, welcome to our weekly happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. So I remember, iconic spot. It's a Friday night podcast, guys, that brings the Canal Zone to your living rooms. We talk about history, which tonight is the big night for that. We talk about towns, people, social events, you name it. A place where everybody knows your name. So let's grab our drinks, guys. Let's get ready to toast for a great show. Our very good friend, David Dahlstrom, is on tonight. And let's
The month.
toast to the eighth wonder of the world.
Everybody.
Salute.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. Remember, guys, it is the month of May. This month, we're going to have a lot of Panama Canal coverage. Tonight, of course, Dave Dahlstrom's doing his Canal Zone history. Going to be some Canal Zone construction coverage on it, or Panama Canal coverage as well. But some other interesting things, the Tivoli Hotel, some other, of course, always great info on the Canal Zone and on the history of it. And as Dave likes to remind us, it's things that we didn't even know that these are things were there right under our feet all this time, and so looking forward to that. Of course, our announcements and stuff. But yeah, the month of May, guys, we're going to focus on the Panama Canal, right? We're going to have everything from the dredging division, from the tugboat division, the Panama Canal pilots, the Gatun locks, even the support divisions that do things for the shipping companies outside of the helping with the transit. We saw an example of that with Maurice Cohen a couple of weeks ago with the Nimitz in town, and how they were the ones that set up all the, I guess you can't really call it ground support. It would be, docking support in a sense. But, there's things that when these ships come into town, like the cruise ships, I imagine they probably do something with the cruise lines as well, where they provide them that service, that is probably coordinated with the canal as far as the transit and all that goes. So, but it's going to be all Panama Canal.
Did you mention the tugboat captains?
Yes, David Cohen will be joining us.
Yes.
you know,
Aska.
Yeah,
I love my Askas.
for sure. So any Atlantic side questions, definitely chime in for that one as well. So it should be a good time there. From Flower Mound, Texas, right on. Good to see you, Mark.
Mark Cicero.
Happy Friday to you, brother. Mark Cicero, of course, Panama Days, which you hear at the end of our intro here now with kind of a way. It really is. Just the verbiage, right? The words. It takes you back to our Panama Days, which is exactly what we're doing here every Friday.
What we're trying to do Friday
Panama
every
Days.
Friday.
So it absolutely fits perfectly, and we appreciate Mark.
Synchronizes. We synchronize.
Yeah, it does. We finally figured it out, right? We finally got it where it's very smooth, and the countdown starts.
Oh, yeah. There's not that break and that pause that we've been getting there a couple of weeks ago.
Well,
Right on, Willie. Good job.
We were on there, so yeah, it's been good.
Production work.
Well, so yeah.
All right.
Anyhow, good show again tonight. We got our history going on there. We're going to do some quick K-Pasa, and then, of course, short announcements.
Right.
There is, let me tell you what, though, things are ratcheting up when it comes to Panama and the ports, okay? They're talking about, I came across a really interesting article the other day, and I meant to share it with you guys in our chat, where there's really two major flashpoints as far as global shipping goes and the maritime world. You know, the big one in the news everywhere is the Strait of Hormuz, but the other one that's popping up, it's not getting as much coverage outside of our sphere here in Panama and the zone in the States, but is the Panama Canal and this big dispute with China. So, probably the two most important waterways or areas are really heating up right now. So
we have a good follow up tonight and some updates on, because every week something new happens. It's really exciting to follow this story and share it with you guys.
Yeah. And then, of course, reunion is right around the corner. It is the 1st of May, guys. So you're less than a month away from the deadline to get yourself registered for the reunion. So make sure you get that taken care of. Okay. Keep that in mind. May 29th. We'll do the announcements. In fact, let's just go ahead and switch over and get those announcements done right now. And then we'll get Dave on here and
get Dave on. Yes.
Some Canals on history going here.
SCN Television presents K Paso. And now here's this evening's host, Army Sergeant Bob Foster.
Good evening and welcome to K Plaza. We've got two guests tonight. First Sergeant First Class Jim Webb. Sergeant Webb's with the 227th Military.
All right, we got some announcements. And look, Dave just popped in right there with us as well. Right in front of the admin building. The three of us now sitting in the table of confusion, table of honor, table of something or other.
You know what? No, actually, this spot is pretty honorable. You know, where we are located right now, on top of the admin stairs. Okay. That was always, if you guys remember when we were in junior high school, you guys were probably 7th grader, David, and Willie was probably in nerd. No, I'm kidding. But remember, there was like demonstrations going on during the Canal times, and then all the Corundu kids met up with the Balboa High School kids. And you remember where they met up? Was up there where we're sitting now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I was in 9th grade when that happened.
You think of, when you look at the view, like when we see the background there, and it's got, the Sosa Hill and El Prado, which again, just very, very well designed and very purpose built the way they had that view. And then you go back and think, for example, it's going to sound crazy and way off the beaten path here and talk about, going down a rabbit hole. But remember the movie Rocky, the original one, right? And he's running and all of a sudden he runs to the top of the stairs and he stands there and he's jumping on it. That scene could be very iconic right here in the zone. You get to the top and you turn around and jump, and then you got that whole scene of Sosa Hill and El Prado, and
I'm sure many of us did that.
It would have been
got
cool
to the top.
For Duran to do it back in the 70s, when he was up in his boxing prime, to do a scene before a Sugar Ray Leonard fight and run up the admin stairs and turn around and do that. That would have been iconic, man.
Yeah, Sosa Hill was iconic for the Balboa kids.
So, but Dave, what's going on, man? Happy Friday to you, brother.
Oh man, I'm glad it's Friday. Good to see you guys.
Right on, David.
Yeah, I spent a few hours up there at top of the admin building, and that rock used to be up there. It's a nice view.
Yeah, very much a great view because you got to see the entrance to the canal, and you got to see all the way out to Miraflores locks, and so it was.
We never ran up the stairs, Will. We always ran up the flat part on the side of the stairs.
Heck yeah, that's it.
The stairs they weren't very tall. I mean, you have to go like
6 inches at most. I remember that. You're right.
Yeah, you got to go like 30 stairs to go up about 2 feet.
So we always ran up the side.
And then slide down. Sliding down was iconic in the dry season, man.
Well, if you went to that top of the hill, that's where you got the most air when you came down and hit that ramp over on the other side by where the slide was.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had the 3 levels, the higher the level, the higher you would go on that off that jump.
Yeah, it's interesting. The whole admin building, it really is a tale of two sides, right? Because the whole other side is the parking lot, and then, of course, you got the roads going up into Ancon and all that area. But it's just such a different perspective from one side to the other. It's like two different worlds. Yep. One side is very open. You see, like, the row of trees, the Prado, and the building in the background, the bridge and all that. And the other side, it's roads, houses, and trees, basically, and then Ancon Hill to your right. So it's
see, there's 3 Balboa kids up here right now. That's why we grew up on that hill, man. That's why Dave said we're there hundreds of times.
Back to it right now, no doubt. Yeah, it's a great view, Ancon Hill, man.
Yeah, and that's a great building. That they did a really nice job.
That was. Yeah.
I mean, that's a very stately looking building.
Absolutely.
Well, the whole layout, the whole arrangement, kind of overlooking the what would essentially be the capital of the Canal Zone, which is Balboa, and that, the administration building on the hill up top looking down. It just, it was written like it should have been.
It looks down on the Balboa Elementary School,
Yes, it
which
sure
that was
does.
my
Look at
dad's
that.
office. So
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. So your dad had a great view of the admin every single day
yeah.
coming in. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Well, speaking of going back into canals and stuff, don't forget, guys, reunion is coming up here. We're only a few months away now. It is a little bit later in July this year, which is going to be interesting to see how that impacts people traveling and whatnot. Because I would imagine it's going to be a little easier, maybe a little cheaper when you're not traveling during that 4th of July holiday weekend. But um, May 29th is the deadline to register. And don't forget, you have to be a member of the Pan Canal Society to do this. This is a Pan Canal Society event through and through. So get yourself registered. It's $60 a year, guys. It's extremely, extremely affordable. You get all kinds of great perks for being a member. And if you go to the reunion, you're going to get repaid back that fee anyway. But, a lot of cool things going on. We had Paul Shamella on a couple of weeks ago from Naval Special Warfare that was stationed down there. He's going to be giving a talk on Friday, right around 12 o'clock, about 11:45. He's going to open up. He's going to have some books if you want to purchase them, or if you have yours already, take it down and he'll sign it for you and get some pictures, because that was a great story, man. He was very entertaining. Very
our viewers got the first-hand knowledge on what's coming up.
Yes.
So if you watch the show, you're gonna know.
It was a sneak peek of what he brings off. But it's awesome because now you know what to expect, right? When it comes to the Canal Zone, it was such a small community, and where, like you say, Ricky, a place where everybody knows your name, right? And you think about that, and so if you're not somebody that's well known, a lot of times, hey, are you going to such and such at the reunion? And most people wouldn't recognize the name, and so they may not show up. Hey, Chris, what's going on, man? From Kentucky, right on. Sunny there. Man, it's been kind of nasty weather in the Midwest the last few days, so hopefully you didn't get hit with a lot of those tornadoes and stuff, and the hail. I've seen a lot of videos on big hail and stuff. But anyway, so somebody like Paul Shamella that most Zonians wouldn't know who that person is, but all of a sudden they watch what he talked about here and like, man, that's gonna be a great talk to go and listen to him there and maybe get an autographed book or something, because the guy's very, very entertaining. He's got some great stories, and
he's got some great stories. But listen, I understand. Everybody wants to know what David's going to talk about, because you always, surprise us with these great stories. You want to let us in a little bit on what we got tonight, Dave?
Well, coming up next week is Acquisition Day. That's Canal Zone Day, so we'll talk about that. And then I'm going to talk about it's Canal Month, so I got to talk about something Canal.
Yes, that's right.
So I'm going to talk about something that I think is probably the most non-mechanical system that operates in the canal, that's been operating since day one and has not been changed. Really, they haven't improved it. Okay. And if you've ever watched the show before and you've seen the last slide, the thank you slide, I always put that in there. I just think it's an amazing thing. So my talk on the canal today is going to be that little piece of equipment, and then also we're going to talk about the locks are tremendously important, but they couldn't get built without being made out of concrete.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about how the concrete got there, and that all came from the quarry at Ancon. So we're going to talk about the quarry at Ancon, and then, of course, to get the rock to make the quarry, you needed dynamite. So we're going to talk about dynamite and a quarry. Without those two things, you would not have a canal. So
that's right.
We don't really talk about that. So those are my canal topics that I'm going to talk about. And then, talking about the canal reunion, the Panama Canal Society reunion in Orlando, this year they're going to have a new event called the Tivoli Soiree.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And I wanted to talk about icons in the canal zone. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about the Tivoli Hotel.
Oh, yes. Right on.
I learned some interesting things. So, if we're going to the Tivoli Soiree, you ought to know what that building was.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
I got some good news, David. Coming in June, we're going to start this architectural segment, Canal Zone Architecture.
Yes.
And the first three buildings we chose, one of the three is the Tivoli. So this is perfect.
And we does not include me. Ricky, who are you talking about when you say we?
Oh, Juan Posada, who, he's been on our show. And he is truly leading the pack on Canal Zone Architecture.
All right.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
he's doing
won't
a
try to
great
go
job.
into too much details about it, but I just at least give you guys the basics of it.
Yeah. We'll
No, it'll
get
be a
into
great
details in
continuation.
June.
That'd be awesome, because then we'll have
Yeah.
something to piggyback off of next month when we start talking about
Yeah.
Jet Li,
But the
and
stories that I've read,
reference
David, are
basis.
amazing. So
there's-
I'm glad you picked that one because I
Yeah.
did read the stories about that hotel, and this
Well, and it's
truly
funny when we talk about again, the month of May is going to be Panama Canal, and when we think Panama Canal, especially when we talk historically, we think construction. We think digging. But there was a heck of a lot of concrete poured. Those locks they're gigantic, and it's not like they were bringing in pallets with bags of concrete to mix that stuff had to be you didn't have the ability to ship that stuff around the world back in those days. You had to find a source, and as it turns out, there was different materials that some worked and some didn't. So it wasn't just by chance they went to these places. And
I think Ancon was one of those places that they ended up. I think David told us that they ended up saying no, this is not the best deal. So,
well, and from researching for the excavating videos that I'm working on, one of the things that I came across was very similar to what Dave's talking about, but there was another source for the concrete, but not the rocks, for the sand. And it was on the Pacific side, and it was about 20 miles away from the Balboa area. And I don't know
We're
if
not
you were
talking
going
about that tonight.
Okay, good. Now, I didn't want to step on toes, so I wanted to make sure. But Chame was an area where they went and got a lot of sand.
Yeah.
They
I should have.
Chama's been raped until today. Chama's still getting raped,
that
man.
place gets no
Chame
love at
sand.
all, man. Yeah.
So it must be a place where sand collects quite nicely.
Right.
Yeah, so we're going to build up over the year. The canal construction was a very long time coming. One of the things I've had the good fortune of coming across a lot of great resources, as we know, and a ton of them, or the majority of them, come from the Panama Canal Museum collection in Gainesville, and they have all the canal records. And I'm not talking about the canal record that we're used to getting from the Pan Canal Society as part of the membership. I'm talking about the canal record, the original one, back starting in 1905, 1907, or whatever it was. Very detailed reporting on the entire construction. And so I'm using that as one of my sources for a lot of the information to build out these videos and these other storylines where they talk about things like, early on, you had to control the Chagres River, of course, because we know that the Chagres River was a massive, massive river. And at certain times of the year during the rainy season, it was putting through about the same amount of water as the Mississippi River in some instances. It was just a massive amount. And so how do you mitigate flooding and losses from that stuff? Because there's only so much you can do to control a river, but they had people stationed way upriver, and their job was simply to monitor that river. And then sometimes we would give them, anywhere from 10 to 24 hours notice saying, hey, you're about to flood, move the locomotives up to higher ground, move the cars and stuff. And sure as shit, you come out the next morning and all that area is underwater, for the next week and a half. So, there's a lot of really cool things that we're going to cover over the next, over the year, really. And each month we'll cover one more piece that brings that entire Pan Canal construction story together. So that's going to be a lot of fun and help to build out that video. So really interested in that.
I got an announcement, Willie. A social announcement, by the way. Our very good friend Jerry Curtis. Got an update on him. He's world-class racer, and he has a world-class race coming up here real soon. I think it's not next weekend, it's the week after. And we've mentioned it before, in Germany. Now, this is a big-time race, guys. The only way you're going to get into this race is one way. You have to be licensed to get in. So how do you get licensed? You got to pass all these tests, that you're fit, that you're sponsored, that you can handle certain bikes. And so this is a big race. It's a race where they race in vintage motorcycles, the old, and it's a big thing. Every race has about 400 entries, and from countries all over the world. Some of the top countries, guys, that's like Italy, Switzerland, Germany, of course, the U.S., Russia. These guys all sent their top riders to this specific race. Mm-hmm. Jerry represents the United States.
Yes, he does.
He's one of the racers for the U.S. team. So this race, guys, has 3 levels to it, right? a top level, which is the top 3 riders in the United States, and those are the guys that compete for the the big money, and these are the pros that the top riders of their countries. And then there's the Super Voss level, which is where Jerry races, and these are comprised of teams, right? Like 3 riders per team,
Correct.
which is what he does in Mexico when he races Baja 500.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's in that team. He's selected from one of the two USA teams, and they compete for like medals. But that level is, everybody who races in that level is sponsored. Like the top guys are pros. These guys at the next level are sponsored. You have to be sponsored by somebody, right, to get into that second level.
I mean, you got to travel to Europe. I mean, it's a big deal. It's not
right, and that's that's the level Jerry's racing on. And like always, U.S. is expected to come either gold or silver. So expect Jerry to come next week.
Yeah, he went there last year to Poland, but as an observer. So
as an observer, right?
Everything, and now he's like,
to figure everything out. So this is his first race that he's invited to,
Correct.
And a lot of it has to do because he's winning in Mexico. Well, Jerry let us know, and then the level below that is like they call it the club team level, and that's with people that want to do like bucket lists, like okay, I want to get this race under my wing. They're not really sponsored by anybody, but they have to have a little bit of money, and bucket list people, and that's that level below. So that's the 3 levels. And guys, the way this race happens is what they call a timed event. So they really don't race. Once again, they're like we're used to seeing. It's they go through 9 different what they call test session. Every session, Willie and Dave, has a different level of like obstacles or difficulty.
Sure.
And so that's how you race. You are timed between the different sessions, right? And, of course, they're very strict. The Europeans are known for having a lot of regulation, right? So things like you can only work on your bikes 10 minutes before the race and 10 minutes after the race, and then that's it. After that, after you're done with the race, guys, they put the bikes so nobody's cheating, and upgrading it. They put it in there like these locked, safe boxes, like a store, and you can't get it till the next day. So it's a 2-day race. Our boy Jerry Curtis will be either riding. Right now, he's signed up for an IT 175 Yamaha 1979. If you remember those were mostly for going uphill stuff with a lot of torque. But he's also been offered to race a Mako 175. I don't know if you guys remember Mako. So he's going to be flying to Oklahoma this week and to go test it out to see how he feels, how comfortable he feels with the Mako. That's our boy Jerry. He gets flown around to go test motorcycles.
How about that, huh?
Yeah. So either the IT Yamaha Jeremy Racing or the Mako. So let's toast to our good Zonian friend Jerry. Good luck. There's the Mako.
There's the Mako right there.
And hope you bring the gold, my friend.
Yeah, and this is a picture from last year in Poland. That they had that in the summer, and it's a big event, and it's a big worldwide event, So,
it's worldwide. All 160 countries participate.
Yeah, no,
and only the top 400 get in.
And like Ricky said, Jerry rode successfully in the Baja 500, which is a massive, massive race. That's one of the biggest races in the world.
That's
very challenging, and he didn't do this at 25 years old, mind you. Okay, that's to me the most impressive thing about Jerry Curtis is that this guy's in our age group, a little older than
62, my age. He was born 6 days before me,
and he is still dominating even against people that are so much younger than he is. I mean, this guy really is just a extremely successful rider, and it's awesome that he's getting the recognition.
And listen, the older the person and the older the motorcycle, the more points they get. So that's why Jerry's probably going to be the gold medalist.
And and it makes sense in you take that situation like that where you have an older bike. Obviously, as bikes get newer, they become probably lighter. They probably have certain things that are done to them that make them more effective. So if you're dominating with an older bike, you're also using lesser equipment, so it makes sense that you get more points for that because you really are at a disadvantage. And then but what they don't realize is that they have the Zonian motorcycle king in Jerry Curtis, and that's that part, unfortunately, you can't really predict that until
He's
you.
also a Balboa kid from Gavilan area.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Right
So,
on.
yeah,
Right
guys,
on.
good
Well,
luck.
good
to you,
luck, Jerry,
We're
from
gonna
the
have
Canal Zone community, man.
And,
We
and
wish you all the
speaking
luck.
of Jerry, we're going to have him on to talk about his ocean to ocean event because,
That's
that
also
is
becoming a
slowly
world
becoming
class.
the real ocean to ocean event in Panama. For many years, obviously it was the Cayuca race, but the Cayuca race doesn't seem to have the same, star power. I guess it still is the Cayuca race, but the big ocean to ocean event now is that motocross race that Jerry is involved with. It he started, and it's you have some of the biggest
ocean to
riders in the
ocean.
world.
It's still big, but it's big for like the international level. It's just
Right.
like when we grew up with it, because I'm talking to Pablo Prieto about this and Ralphie Furlong, who are very involved with that race. They said that the difference
Cayuga race
now
is tough.
from before is that before, when we were around, up to a few years ago, the high schools were involved. The younger
Right.
kids were involved. Now it's straight up, the best paddlers of people, different countries.
Sure. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, it's becoming one of those global, type competitions and stuff where
Yeah,
real
I mean
pros get involved.
they're doing the lake in 3 hours where we did it almost in 5. Things like that. So it's incredible what it is. But you're right, participation is way lower. Just that it's bigger and international.
It's a different kind of event.
It's a different kind of event. And then now they got that bike race too. They're calling it
the
Ocean to Ocean too.
Yeah,
They're
that's what I'm
calling
saying.
that one Ocean to
It
Ocean
makes
as
sense.
well.
I mean, if there's a place you're going to have something ocean to ocean that you can do, it's in Panama,
Yeah.
right? Anywhere
Yeah.
else, man, that's from
Yeah.
New York to California is a big event.
All right.
From Cologne to Balboa is pretty easy.
All right, let's roll into our history session. Because Willie, you and I can chit chat for hours, bro.
And that's what we usually do here, So, but we're
Yeah,
good at that,
26.
Let me go ahead and there you go, Dave.
Hey.
Hey guys, how you doing?
What's going on, Dave?
All
So,
right.
Canal Zone history, of course, our Canal Zone historian, Dave Dahlstrom, first of the month, he joins us and gives us some incredible things that we didn't know, that we should have known because they were right under our noses, but we didn't. And so, like we've talked about just a little while ago, he's going to really enlighten us here on some cool things from construction help to places to stay and everything in between. So, Dave, man, do your thing, brother.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on again. Monday's a big day. This is kind of one of the things that got me interested in the canal history. One, looking at those canal records that you mentioned, going back from the day one. I mean, they are so detailed, and every day, almost every minute, is written down and transcribed about what happened. And it's amazing how much stuff there's in there. So I try to use a lot of that from my references.
Yeah,
because it really does tell a story.
It does. It does. I mean, they were meticulous about keeping records and understanding what was going on, and in an era when it was hard to do, especially in such a remote place that was the Panama jungle. It was amazing what they were able to do.
Right. So one of the things that I learned in looking at those documents was about Acquisition Day and how they were celebrating Acquisition Day, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And so when I found out, it's the day that basically the Canal Zone started. Back in April of 1904, the Congress signed the deeds to the canal with the French company. They had passed the treaty. Both Panama and the U.S. had ratified the treaty earlier, but the French canal was owned by a company, not a country, and so it was going through this legal process to sell its assets to the U.S. and it was going through the courts and making all the stockholders happy and such. And so it wasn't up until April of 1904 where the U.S. actually signed for the deeds, and then and so and that was one of the reasons it happened a little bit earlier than they anticipated. Is that, and I didn't know this before, was that General Huerta, who was the Colombian general. Colombia wasn't happy about what the U.S. did.
I'm sure.
You took Panama from us essentially.
They had probably spent some of that money already.
Yeah. So, and they had, kind of wanted a deal with the U.S., but they jerked around,
Right.
and but they lost out. But he went to Paris and was starting to, file legal proceedings against the French company so that they couldn't sell their
How about that?
company. And so I think the U.S. hurried up really quick, and they managed to tidy up things. And then the leading U.S. military officer that had been stationed in Panama, thinking that he had some time left, he went to the U.S. for some medical reason, and that left Lieutenant Brooke as the highest-ranking military officer in Panama, the second lieutenant. And they said, "Hey, this is done.
Congratulations.
Panama, you have to sign the receipts. They're going to turn over all the property to you tomorrow."
Congratulations. You're going to be in the history books.
Exactly. So we put this little AI together because I can't find a photograph of it, but this is how it kind of describes: is that they're out front of the offices. It was the French Canal Company, the second Canal Company's headquarters there, and so that became the U.S. headquarters early on.
Right.
And so they had a small ceremony, just a couple minutes long, where they hoisted the flags up on the building and gave over the paperwork and the keys and stuff, and then Lieutenant Brooks signed for it. And so that's basically the first day of the Canal Zone is May 4th, 1904.
Wouldn't it be funny if in 1977 they're going to sign the canal treaties and some family from the Brooks comes and go, "Hey, this is our canal, man. I signed for this. My great-grandfather owns. It's not America. Hold on now."
Yeah. But it was kind of neat using AI to recreate this, what this looked like and stuff like that. And you would think it's something that we would have maybe continued to do each May 4th. But I put my Canal Zone flag out front of my porch and celebrate Canal Zone Day.
Yeah, it's Canal Zone's birthday.
Monday. Yeah.
Monday. And so there's just a little bit of history that really was never talked about in my day. Never heard about it, but I think it's one of those things that
not Cuatro de Mayo. We always other days, but not Cuatro de Mayo, like August 15th. August 14th, etc. But yeah, May 4th is the day.
May 4th.
Yeah.
All right, so I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention to make sure that they knew about it.
All right.
And then the next item we're going to talk about is my favorite little thing is hang on, I got to get to my notes.
Yeah, what are you doing that? May the zone be with you.
May the zone be, exactly. Is one of the most important things for those ships when they're going through the Panama Canal is that they've got to be going through those locks, and if they're big, they don't have a lot of room, and so they need to be tethered to those mules and held securely. And the way that they get those lines from the ship to the mules is with these little rowboats, and the rowboats go out and they meet the ship, and they get the line from the ship, and then they go back over to the lock, and then they throw the line up to the mule, so the mule can tether it down, and then they can winch that ship in tight. And
I wonder if they get paid like pilots.
I doubt it. But but it has to take two. It has
two
to
decimal
be
points over though.
It has to be some pretty skilled people because you're going in front of these big old boats. AI. This is an AI picture, of course. So they put the boat like right at the bow of the ship. I doubt that happens.
I mean, it can't be any much different than that.
But
there's not much more room.
They do get pretty close, especially if the ship is wide enough. There's probably not a lot of room, and so you have to be careful. But
You
these
know what?
guys,
We're going
go
to
out.
bring this up with Captain Andy. What? How
Yeah.
that's handled? That's a good one.
Yeah.
And
But
this
think
is the
about
thing
it.
you're talking about that is never changed since day one.
It hasn't. It's been like this for over 100 years.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And here's a couple of photos of it, so you can see
So-
these are actually real life.
So you got those up there. Okay, I can't see them. Yeah, you can see them in real life. But these ships, the ships get bigger and more modern, but the way that they transfer that wire to the mules has not changed.
It's still just a handoff.
It's just a handoff. And I think I remember when I was a kid, they thought about like using some type of a gun to shoot that monkey ball or whatever they call it.
Right.
But I guess that's dangerous. That projectile going.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, what they found is that it works. It's not broke.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a rowboat with one person with oars and the other person that's handling a line and throwing it, like catch and pitch. And it is the most basic thing. And we talk about the ships going through the canal and all that other stuff, but I don't know if we ever really think about.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
First
We
time I
never-
thought about it.
Exactly. You never think about these incidentals, and guess what? This is the most necessary piece. Otherwise, those mules can't help that ship.
Yeah.
And
So,
so I imagine your job interview when you're going to be on is, you ever play baseball? Yeah. Okay, cool. You're in. You can throw. We need you, man, because you're going to be launching that thing every day.
Yeah. So it'd be good to talk to the captains and find out. Hey, what incidents have you ever had with these guys?
Sure.
But think about it. When we get those rainstorms coming down, these guys are out in that stuff.
Yeah.
The ship's coming.
Someone's had to have gone overboard on that thing. That's not the most stable of boats that those guys are sitting in, man. There's been a time someone has misstepped and splash. Guarantee you. Probably happens a lot.
Right.
So I think the next slide you have is the arrow.
Yes.
And I think you had asked Captain Andy about this, or one of the other guests a while back. And I've always been intrigued by that arrow. You don't see it much because you have to be looking head on the canal to see it. But there's this arrow that's at the lock walls as you approach the wall, and the arrow you can see it. And
I remember that arrow. Yeah.
and I think we talked about Andrew about what it meant, and he gave us a brief explanation. But when I was doing my research for this, let's go to the next slide. I found this this kind of cheat sheet that talks about what the position of the arrow means.
Oh, so it's not like the typical the boat's on this side or something. No.
Yeah, and I can't read it at this level, so I won't. But it basically it tells you what chamber, the left chamber or the right chamber to go in. But then it also has some other instructions for it.
Yeah, it says, so the first one, it's got that green arrow pointing down. It says, not ready, lockage cannot take place for some time. If it's pointing up, it says, not ready, standoff well clear of lock, prepared to approach on signal. And then the one with it, arrow pointing up and to the right, lock's making
Diagonally.
preparation, probably ready in 10 minutes or less. And the other diagonal, I guess maybe pointing at which lock is going to be ready soon. More to approach wall near chain. So they got, it's again, things that the captains know. One thing I was going to say, on these views of those arrows, where I remember them as a kid, was any of those photos you had at night. Like I remember one of the Canal reviews was an iconic night picture, and that thing popped like a light bulb.
Yeah, because they're lit up like LED and stuff.
Yes,
like that.
100%.
But I was wondering, when the canal opened, they didn't really have like electric lights.
No, you're right.
They were lit that way because, actually, the canal they didn't run at night.
They didn't run at night, exactly.
They didn't run at night. So this thing must have been added, when they started doing the nights, which would have been in the '60s. They started lighting the
because
cut.
that would have been the need to light that entrance like that. And
Mr. Bradley worked on those lights. Actually, he should come on and talk about that.
Yeah, that would be interesting to get his take on it.
So this is one of those things that it's been part of the canal now for what, 50 years or more, 100 years, 75 years, and it doesn't get any love.
Right?
So that's
No,
great.
man, but we all remember
And,
it.
this is one of those that if you're talking to somebody here in the States, and you're going through pictures of the canal zone, and you see that, and they're going to go, "What does those arrows mean?" I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Well,
What do you
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
You live down there. How do you not
you
know
go
that?
down,
Yeah,
when
or
you
at
go down
least,
to
you
the
know,
Canal
one,
Union, and you use
yeah,
your partial
like,
transit, and you see that, you'll know exactly what it is.
Yeah, no
yeah,
kidding.
yeah, yeah.
And you can bet your buddy a beer and all that stuff.
There's
Right,
actually
right,
three,
right,
four
right.
messages altogether. 8 obviously, but 4 just left or right. Yeah. Well, we would just think it was going that way or going the other
Right,
way.
right.
Mhm.
But there's hold back. There's
You
Yeah,
know,
this.
we
there's a
could have
little
used
method in that
one
back.
of those on like 4th of July Avenue or something.
Yeah, no
One of these
kidding.
things.
Absolutely.
Even a yacht club.
Crossing
Lane-
over to Grand Morrison. That's where we really needed it.
Yeah. There you go.
But it's just one of those things that how else are we going to talk about this unless Will's having a show about the canal?
You're
And
right.
then, of course, now when the pilots talk about it, you know what the rowboat is, you know what the
Yep.
arrow is, and
Yeah,
they
no
can
kidding.
direct us and fill in all the gory
Yeah.
details.
Got a
and
T
funny
fit.
bits that happened, but we'll know what that is.
There you go.
All right.
Now we know.
So now,
Yeah,
it's-
thanks, man. I mean, that's why I love you when you come on, because you always talk about the things that we've all seen, but we've never talked
Correct.
about it.
There's
Right.
aha moments everywhere.
Right. It's not the typical what you get in, when you search
Exactly.
the Canal Zone history. We're
Yeah,
always
because
on the
we've heard-
periphery.
We've heard all the tip of the iceberg stuff. I go down below the surface.
Yes,
about
you do.
things that
Yeah.
nobody talks about. You don't have time to talk about it, so
Yeah.
you just give the highlights.
Yeah.
And
there
this
it
is all
is.
the stuff that gets on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It doesn't make editing.
That's exactly
Right
what it's
on,
the
David.
cutting room
All
floor.
right. So the next slide, I call it unearthing the foundation, and it's the history and use of the Ancon quarry.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's like how it says a single hill, but the all the rock didn't come from Ancon, but a lot of it on the Pacific side did, and it was basically the bedrock for building the Panama Canal, and except for the
Right.
water, all the locks are concrete, the spillway is concrete. Gatun Dam, Madden Dam. Well, that Madden Dam was later, but all the works, the fortifications out at Amador, all concrete. The houses and all that, the roads, all that stuff. There were a lot of concrete was coming to being, and they needed a source. And the French actually started mining Ancon in the mid 1880s when they started.
Right.
And do you know what type of rock is out that comes out of Ancon?
Couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell you. All right. It's called andesitic agglomerate,
Oh,
I'm gonna say
yeah.
that. But
Panama
I'm sure. I
Formation.
don't want to sound like I'm a
Willie, you and I were just talking about that.
Know it all.
And what that means is that it's a volcanic rock
Uh-huh.
that's commonly found in the Pacific Ring of Fire. So all these
Oh, right on.
coastal places that have these old
Yeah.
volcanoes, the Ring of Fire, this is the remnants of these old volcanoes.
Congratulations, Panama. You made the Ring of Fire, man. It's an honor. An honor.
Yeah, and it's called andesitic, meaning Andes Mountains, and that was I guess it's very common down
Named
there.
after Captain Andreftomitis. Sure.
Yeah. So now you can remember that Andes Mountains. Oh, andesitic. Okay.
There you go.
And then agglomerate means it's made up of many different things, and then it's Panama Formation. I imagine that depending on what latitude you are,
Right.
the formation is a little bit different. But that rock had unique
Properties.
properties that made it suitable for making concrete.
Yeah.
And so when we talked about May 4th was the U.S. basically takes over control,
Mm-hmm.
and then by later that year, they're at Ancon opening up a mine for all the works that they need to do. So they identified this as a very important place, and so it wasn't called Coy Heights at the time; it was called Ancon Quarry.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So let's go on to the next slide.
Well, now you know where the Corey Heights name came from.
Right,
You know?
exactly.
I mean, it was
Right.
absolutely that one.
So
Spectacular base.
the next slide, talked about a little bit before, is that the Ancon Quarry had this giant stone crusher plant up there, and and it was it had these stone crushers that were made by, it's called the Alice Chalmers Machine Company, and they're still in business. They're out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I know my uncle had Alice Chalmers tractors for his
Nice.
farm, and so they're very, Bucyrus was up in that area as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of that, um, or it wasn't Bucyrus. They were down in Ohio, but there were other um, companies that made a lot of this machinery stuff that ended up going down to Panama, and but to be able to get the rocks, you needed to have dynamite to break up the
Crack it.
rocks, because
Yeah.
the steam shovels could only handle rocks of a certain size and stuff, and so they had to blow up the rocks to make them small enough for the steam shovels to be able to put them into a train car, and then those train cars, they built tracks especially for the rock,
Right.
so that they can get the rock, through the crusher into the train cars, and then to Pedro McGill and Miraflores and Amador, where they were building fortifications and locks and stuff. And so they had special train engines that were, heavy duty, that had a lot of traction going up hills, to be able to get those things down there. But they had a system, especially, basically it was its own, contained system for getting the rock to move, and so it didn't interfere with all the other business that they were doing, moving the dirt.
Them poor kids at Balboa Elementary, man, that must have been a racket to me hearing all that noise.
Can you
Yeah, I'm
imagine
sure.
how much noise that thing would have made?
Right?
Well, La Boca's going through it right now with
Yeah.
Sosa Hale getting
There's
pounded.
a place of noise in La Boca now. Yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding.
Hey, Dave, I got a
And
question. When
yeah,
when you do Canal Zone research, like I've been lately, you come across ICC a lot. Do you
yeah,
tell us what that stands for?
that's the Isthmian Canal Commission. And so when the canal, before the canal started, there was an Isthmian Canal Commission, and then they lasted until um, um, I don't know, it's like 1914, right when the canal opened. Then they
Yeah,
became the Panama Canal Company.
correct.
And so at,
Okay.
at, at this time, the first governor of the ICC was Davis, um, and then the head of the ICC was, I think, Shantz was his name, and then at one point, Wallace was part of it, but then Wallace resigned just after a couple months, and then Stevens came on there. So during the canal construction period, since it was basically a department of this Department of War, in the Congress, the ICC was. That's why Taft was involved with it so much, is that he was the Secretary of Department of War, um, before he became president. Um, can you imagine that? I mean, that's why, this was a military project.
100%. 100%.
That's why the Department of War was running it. It wasn't the Army Corps of Engineer or somebody else. It was Department of War, because they were building it for ships, military ships.
Yep.
That was
And they had the
priority.
wherewithal and the knowledge, the experience to do these large projects, mega scale projects that involve a lot of
Right.
logistics and
Yeah.
whatnot, and who better to coordinate?
So ICC was the organization that was formed. They had a board of directors, and when it first started, they had like 9 of them, and all 9 of them had to approve like any expenditures. So it was very bureaucratic, and everyone was really frustrated because they couldn't. If they needed a shovel, it took you 9 months, right? And it was like,
Right.
and now we need 10,000 shovels. So
Yeah,
it was
isn't that
just
why
like,
Wallace quit? Because it was
yeah,
just everything took forever.
exactly right. And so. But when they started, in 1905, originally it was still going to be a sea level canal. Then they decided pretty quick, like by the end of 1905, that it was going to be a lock canal. And of course, they originally was going to be like 100 feet wide, and then they widened it um, a little bit later. But that's when they know they needed all of this concrete,
Hmm.
to build those things. And then one of the dynamite. Was interesting to find out that DuPont company was the one that supplied the dynamite. Um, there were others. Keystone is out of Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, but DuPont is Delaware, not too far, about an hour from my house actually, and supplied it. And they mentioned here in this little um, call out here, insignificant looking rolls of yellow paper yielded over 500,000 pounds of force per square inch. And what they mean by the yellow paper, and I have an image coming up, but the dynamite was wrapped in this wax paper, and I guess at that time it was kind of a yellowy paper. And they would put the
Well, hell, I can pull that
nitroglycerin
up right now if you want.
and all right.
There it is.
It's like a M80 actually, or a tuna bomb.
Yeah, I think this picture that I have is a little bit newer. It's what I could find online, but you can see on the box it says ICC 14,
Yeah.
and so I think that means Isthmian Canal Commission. And so these were packed in those boxes, and those boxes weighed 50 pounds. And when you see some of these pictures of the men carrying the dynamite on their heads,
Right.
if it was loaded, it was 50 pounds. And could you imagine carrying that stuff up and down those hills and that heat and all that stuff?
Mm.
And I'm
Knowing
sure
you're
this stuff
carrying
I
100
wonder how
pounds
many duds there must have been.
it wasn't the most stable stuff either. But one of the things that this DuPont, and it's specifically the 60% strength, was that it could get wet, damp, or it could be submerged. So
Correct.
Okay,
you could put it under water for a little bit and you still ignite it.
gotcha.
And so without this little piece of yellow wax paper of nitroglycerin and saltpeter and whatever other stuff that goes into making dynamite, the canal would not have happened. And they put tons of this stuff out there to bust up that rock. Then they put the rock in the rock crusher, and then they break it down into 1 to 3 inch aggregate so that they can ship it to the Pedro McGill and the Miraflores locks.
Yep.
And they would mix the concrete. Right there at the locks. And Pedro McGill and Miraflores did it one way, where they had these cranes that would lower the stuff into the lock chambers, and they had the mixers inside the lock chambers. But on the Atlantic side, the quarry over there was at Portobello,
Right.
and they didn't have a rail connection, so they had to ship all the stuff by barge or by sea, and then they had their mixing plant off to the side, and they used like 42 little tram cars that would
Yeah, they
roll
did.
up, and then they would mix all the stuff, and then they'd roll it in. And so if you look at the old pictures, you'll see that they have these like gantry cranes,
Yep.
but you only see those at Gatun. And then they have these little 24-inch wide tracks for these little tram cars that carry the cement and stuff.
And I would imagine that Gatun, being that the entire Atlantic side was all in one set of locks, and the Gatun Dam was right next to it, it probably made sense to have that more permanent concrete mixing, whereas Miraflores and Pedro Miguel, they were a very smaller set of locks, and you did one and then you did the other one.
Yeah,
So,
probably. Yeah,
that was all pretty much one large area where you mixed and poured a ton of concrete.
Exactly.
Was in Gatun,
All right. All right. So let's go back up a couple slides, Will.
Yeah.
If we
Well,
go
this is a
back
view
to-
of Quarry Heights here.
All right. So all right. Let me see if I can get to the screen here.
That's probably some
The
so-so.
one that I see on there we go. So this is from Balboa. This is probably well, you can see the little tank right there.
Yep.
In the foreground. So if you were going out to the La Boca, this would be about equal to where the gas station is, but on Sosa Hill, like on the little saddle hill that comes down.
Yeah, that's where those houses up there that are for those executives that we've talked about. It's like 2 or 3 up that side road.
Right before Tavernier and all that area.
Yeah.
So so this is looking through where Balboa is, and there's not a whole lot of houses there yet. This is 19.
That's probably Tabernia Hill right there on the side,
right,
where the houses are on.
But you can see that there's some terraces
Sure.
up on Ancon Hill, and then there's this structure that you can see, and that is the Ancon Crusher, the rock crusher.
Okay.
And so I wanted you to see that. So back in the day, when this thing was there, everyone knew where it was because I mean you could see it a mile away. It was high up, and when that thing was crushing, it was loud.
Oh, can you imagine?
But no one was living there at the time.
Right.
Yeah, a couple of cats, 4 or 5.
So let's go to the next one.
Well, here real quick. This is that diagram of the Ancon Crusher there, isn't it?
Well, it's an AI version of it.
Right, but it depicts what it was, and it was a big erected thing that would, with conveyor belts move stuff and load it and move it along.
Yeah. Well, I've got some other images that show it.
Okay.
So go on to the next one.
Let's see what we got here. Okay, went through that one. Hold on, you got me out of order now. What do we got here? This is looking.
Well, that's looking the other way. So this is looking from Ancon. So on the
from
left,
the top of the quarry.
Top of the quarry, and on the left, if you're looking down a little bit, it's called East Balboa, and you were talking about Mr. Curtis, and as I recall, he used to live like right in that area.
Okay.
Gavilan.
Well, I think didn't he live up
prior to that? I think
off of Morgan Avenue and.
No, Jordan than Gavilan. And then
Gavilan?
he moved.
All right.
Yeah. And then his dad moved to right across the street from the Los Rios pool.
Okay. But then this is looking towards, across Balboa, and in the distance you can kind of see some houses. That would be Silver La Boca.
Okay.
And where that steam is rising up and kind of in the middle of the picture. That's where that first photograph was taken, I think. Looking the other way.
And here's a little more clear.
And this is a couple months later, looking the same area, but then the difference is, and I also want to thank Canals on Images for posting these images, but you can start seeing the houses, the white mason houses going up on Tavernia Street and stuff. They weren't there in the other pictures. So this is around 1914 when Balboa was starting to be built.
Okay.
All right. Nice. So then this is a diagram of the rock crusher. So in the images that we've seen, the biggest thing that you could see was up on the top, and that was the Quarry Heights. There's 3 terraces, but basically when you go into the gate, you're on the lower terrace. So this would have been probably about where the if you remember the Officers Club.
Yeah. Okay.
And about that area, it wasn't all the way as far as the movie theater was, but it wasn't at the gate either. So it was kind of in between.
Which is the one we can see on this diagram here, this image.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
That's that building at the top there.
Yeah, so this is looking side view.
Right. Right, and then this is from the other view.
Right. So essentially, what you can see in this is that you put the aggregate stone in the top, and then you use the gravity. And the reason why they put it there is because Ancon Hill is 674 feet tall, and you use gravity just like when they do the canal. They use gravity to fill it and stuff. So you get the rock up at the top, and then you dump it into the first Alice Chalmers crusher, and they called it a gyrating crusher. And the thing was 18 inches in diameter and then like 40 some odd inches long. And it basically, you could put the rock in there and it would continue. Like if you guys have a coffee bean grinder,
right?
You turn it on and all the beans go down, and then it comes all out the same size at the bottom of it. It's the same principle, except this is with hard, big stones. And so it would go into that first. You can kind of see that funnel-shaped thing right below the rocks.
Yeah.
It would crush it out, and then it would give you like 7-inch rocks, and then it would go on this conveyor belt, and the conveyor belt was 60 inches wide, so 5 feet, and and then it would go. And I actually, it would. I'm wondering now if I got my thing wrong, that the lower would be where the belt is going across. I think I am. I think the rock crusher was on the second level, and then it drops down to the first level.
Right. Yeah.
Or you die in, and then it goes. Then it went across on a conveyor belt, and then it dropped into two other Alice Chalmers stone crushers, and then that crushed it down to 1 to 3 inches. That the
And that's
size
on
they
Morgan
needed.
Avenue, right there. I can see in the bottom.
Yes. So, and so if you know where
That's a
Ilka
lot.
Martin lived,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, the
estimate
Reinhardts
that
lived up
thing
there.
was right about there.
Okay.
Oh,
Interesting.
okay, yeah. This is
So-
so the Martins and the Reinhardts, they were neighbors.
Yeah. So
Right there.
when the train would come up, the train would go up Morgan Avenue,
Yep.
and the rock, empty. They'd have 12-yard cars that would go up there, and they would fill it up, but they'd fill it up from Morgan Avenue, so it didn't have to
Correct.
go all the way up. The
Right,
rocks
exactly.
would be crushed, and they would bring it down.
Yep.
They'd use gravity to bring it down, and then they'd ship it off to whether Pedro McGill, Miraflores, or Amador.
Yep. That's right.
And
It's amazing.
and I just lived like a block from that. Ricky, you probably lived about 2 blocks from that.
Yeah.
And so if we lived
John
there at that
Canzero
time,
too.
we
He lived
probably
right
wouldn't have
there
been-
too as well.
Yeah, Cotton Zero was right there.
Yeah, well, I lived on the last house on Barnaby Street. If you're facing the elementary school on the left side.
Nah, we're cooler. We're Las Cruces, Gab.
I was coming out my front door and looking at the rocks being dumped right there. That was right in front of my house.
But I had no idea that there was a rock crusher there. I mean, you see the face of the mountain, so you knew it was a quarry.
Uh-huh.
Right.
But I had no idea that.
And it would go that far down too, because
It would go
Morgan
that
Avenue
far
is not
down.
like Morgan Avenue is way down there.
Well,
from-
and it explains the face of Ancon Hill to us and why it was barren like that. Because prior to that, that was a full jungle full of trees, completely covered hill. Is Ancon Hill, and then and nowadays you look at it in today's date. There's a lot more coverage now, where you see a lot of it has grown back. That wasn't the same as when
and
we
there's
lived down there.
there's like a whole zoo that lives there. Wild
Yeah.
animals there galore.
It's a big area. It's a big, large.
But
I mean,
wait-
even as kids, we used to run in that jungle, and you run into stuff all the time.
But when we lived there, that whole area seemed pretty lush. The trees on Morgan Avenue were
Right.
huge, and all that.
Yeah.
The jungle behind it was huge.
Yeah.
But just 50 years before that, it was
a
barren.
big
It was
factory.
a rock pit. I mean,
Yeah.
if you told someone, "Hey, I'm going to build you a house in this rock quarry," you'd say, "I'm not going to live there."
I'm not gonna buy any land there. Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
Man. This is a great diagram you have here that explains from start to finish. The big boulders all the way down to each one there, and how it. And the smart thing is, like everything else they did, they put a lot of thought into it. A lot less powered machinery required when you're using gravity to go downhill, as opposed to trying to carry that weight uphill to work it, to then bring it back downhill again, to put it in the canal. So
Exactly right. Because I was thinking that they ran the train all the way up there, and then
Yeah.
but it's like no, they just blew the rock down,
they let it go down. It's going to go down anyway.
bite-sized
Smart.
pieces, and then they moved it.
Brilliant.
So it's pretty interesting. And it was only 7 miles from Ancon to either Amador or to Pedro McGill Miraflores, so they didn't really have to move it that long.
Right.
But this is what that the
Crusher.
gyratory crusher looks like. You can see it's a big like hole, and the rock gets fed in there. And this is the top one at the top,
Right.
and then it just crushes it down into 7-inch like boulders.
Right.
And
And
then-
even there, you can see from the size of the guy on the left of it there, it's a pretty good size opening, but those rocks still have to be broken to a certain size.
Yeah,
They're not just
right.
going to be car size either.
And that's,
You know?
and that's where the
Handleable
dynamite
size.
came in. The dynamite
Yeah.
had to break it up so it could fit into the crusher.
Right.
And I guess if
there's
it
a
couldn't
track
fit in,
right there.
if it was too big, then that's probably where it went out to Causeway.
Yeah, there you go. That was Amador. That was it. That was their causeway.
But that might be an example of like the size of the rocks that they put.
Sure. Sure.
Maybe they probably had to be smaller than that. Like the
Oh,
one
God
that
almighty, that had to have been loud, man. Because you can hear what that sound when that things are crushing like that. It's
So this is a diagram of the bottom one, and you can see
Lovely.
the stone crusher, and there's actually 2 of them, but you can only see one because it's looking on the side. And then the train would go underneath it, and you'd open up the hopper, and they'd fill up the
Yeah.
the train and then just move the train. And this is what that crusher looked like. It's it's a pretty big piece.
Yeah, no kidding.
But you could continuously flow the rocks through it, and it would crush them, in uniform size, which is always good. And then it was low cost,
Yeah.
but this thing was loud. And then
Oh,
just a kind of a difference between the Ancon one that they built, and it was one of the first ones, I guess. It was a 50-ton crusher, but the one in Portobello was a 235-ton crusher. And so the one in
7
Ancon
times bigger.
was 18 by 68, and the one at Portobello was 42 by 150 by 114. And it could do 5 times as much crushing as the one but I guess with the Gatun Dam and stuff, they needed more of it, and then the locks and stuff. And at the time, that crusher in Portobello was the world's largest crusher.
wow. How about that?
The other interesting thing too is that when all those cranes and those things that you see in the pictures with moving the concrete over the locks and stuff.
Right.
There was a man. His name was Roebling, and now when we see a steel cable, we see it. It's a bunch of strands that are like wrapped together and then make a thicker steel cable. But that was pretty new innovation at that time, and so he'd found that they were doing this in Germany, and so he applied that, and basically back then everything was done by rope, but they needed to pull those ships through the canal, and they needed to carry heavy things and such, and so he adapted the steel reinforced around the rope.
Right.
So
well, especially in an environment like Panama, that's always so humid that your rope is going to last you one season.
Yeah, they needed the rope keeps the I guess the form, so it doesn't get all tangled up and stuff like that. But then it also makes it strong. And so they use that for all the mules, and then they also use it for those cables that move the concrete back and forth. And they use so much of that, I think they said it would go the length of the canal and back.
Yeah, wow. Between the Reinhardt's house and the Catanzero's house, if you remember that, there's a little park there.
Yeah.
And there were some concrete structures there. I bet that's from that era.
Probably. Yeah. So it was some type of foundation.
That's what John mentioned there.
Interesting.
I always wonder where all that's from. Yeah, look.
Exactly. All right. So then, what this one is saying is that, to be able to use the steam shovels, they bought 100 of them, from day one, but you can only scoop it if it's small enough to scoop.
Right.
And so that dynamite was important, and so lots of dynamite, and we don't really talk about it. We talk about how many people died. A lot of them died from premature blasts and those types of things. You can see the men there carrying on the head. Those things are 50 pounds. You put 50 pounds on your head and walk with it.
Right. In that heat and humidity. Right.
All day.
By
10 hours a day.
Yeah, I was going to say. First one's a piece of cake.
10 hours a day.
Right. By lunchtime, dude, you're exhausted, man, and you still have a half a day to go, man. That's impressive.
So it's just one of
Dave,
those
let's ask the audience real quick, because the next slide it's got a number on there, but we'll ask the audience to take a wild guess. From 1909 until 1912, that was what's considered the peak lock construction years, right? That's when the most concrete was being mixed and used and whatnot. And as we've learned here now, we had to get all the raw materials to make that construction or make that concrete from Ancon, from Portobello, and all those things here. So what do you guys think was the cubic yards? Give us a round number in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions. What do you think it was during that 3-year peak period of lock construction? What do you guys think? Throw that in the chat if you get a chance here. We'll see who comes close to this, because it was a decent amount, man. It was, they won't build all these structures for a couple of bucket loads. Okay, they're planning on using a lot of concrete out there. But what are your thoughts out there? I see you guys can throw something in the chat here. I know we always gotta worry about that lag. It's not the outgoing lag now. We've learned it's the incoming lag that it takes about 8 or 10 seconds for it to register here. But it is interesting, because that's the one thing that, if there ever was a rock star of Panama Canal construction, it was these steam shovels. because these things were digging everywhere all the time. So we got to guess here 10 million cubic yards.
Chris wins all these contests.
I know, right?
So I'm going with what Chris says. 10 million.
What are we thinking, guys? How many cubic yards were were extracted, and we're talking about rocks, during that peak lock construction era, 1909 to 1912. So we'll go ahead and keep moving along here. We got 175 million cubic meters. That's a lot there. That's, holy cow, that's 400 million cubic
No, but
feet and everything. But it's a decent amount, and Leaf's going to say
probably
here,
about the right one.
Leaf just threw a bunch of zeros in. We'll see if it will hit there.
100 million.
A lot of zeros in there. But all right, so here we go. And the number is 3.2 million. Go ahead, Dave. Didn't mean to steal your thunder there.
3.2? Okay, we're a little off there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like very much, actually.
3.2 million cubic yards is equal to the amount of the face of the west side of Ancon Hill that's missing.
There you go. There you go. And that, again, we're talking about the raw material to make concrete. We're not talking about the excavation to dig out the canal. This is just what they were getting, those rocks, which was a useful thing, right? There was nothing that we needed to change on Ancon Hill or in Portobello. We needed the material out of those places to build our canal. Yeah. And that's what they're talking about.
And how about the causeway? What material did they use for the causeway? Because I know that's all from all that.
Yeah, a lot of it was...
A lot of that came from Culebra.
Culebra cut.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the same type of rock.
Correct.
And then, like I said, some of it probably got diverted to, breakwater construction, needed a certain size.
Oh, that's right, on the Atlantic side.
And one of the things that I have read also was that, for concrete, in order for it to be, solid and after it cures to work and hold, you have to have clean raw materials. And so what you had in the causeway in Culebra, they're digging that stuff out, they're loading it on their trains, and they're hauling it there and dumping it, and now you've got a causeway. Now you've got Balboa, now you've got Amador. What they were doing with this stuff, though, here, in addition to crushing it, you had to a certain level, clean it, so that what you had going in to mix your concrete didn't wind up falling apart 10 years later and not being, good, solid concrete. So there was a lot more work involved in this and finessing that rock to get the material we needed. And as we
purify it.
Yeah, exactly. Clean it up.
And the other part of that with the concrete, you need cement. And
yes,
they had to bring Portland cement from, there were like 6 different places in Pennsylvania and West Virginia, and they would bring it in by railroad to like Baltimore and then ship it, down to Panama. And they had to keep on doing it. And that's what the Ancon was to bring Portland cement for years. They had to keep on bringing that supply down, and they used a lot of it. So those are some things that a lot of logistics. Not everything had to be brought down, but every bag of cement used, they probably didn't put it in bags back then, but it had to go in the belly of a ship, load it on and load it off.
Oh, the Ancon. That was what the Ancon really was all about, right? To bring a lot of concrete.
A lot of supplies, absolutely. There was a lot of stuff. And Ricky, you talked about this, in one of Dave's previous episodes when we talked about the housing. Is all that redwood coming in from California. Same thing. It was constantly being shipped in and stockpiled.
Till today, that redwood is still there.
Yeah, right. It's a testament
to the governor's house.
Quality. No kidding.
And that's another good thing that John brings up. A lot of large gun batteries and bunkers. So there's a lot of concrete used down there, guys.
Yep. And then, there's bunkers in Ancon Hill.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. They got offices inside there. John and I went to one. Mayor Forsyth.
So we talked a little bit about this, but, on the Pacific side, they use these giant cranes, and they call them... what type of cranes do they call them? I can't remember.
Big terrace.
Yeah. They're called berm cranes.
Okay.
And then they would bring the cement into, or they would bring the materials down into the chamber, and then they had the mixers down there, and they would mix the cement. But all those walls, the lock walls that you see when you see the picture of the ship, and the ship is right up against the wall and stuff, you're looking at Ancon Hill and Chamay.
Yeah, right.
That's kidding. Where that scar on that mountain ended up.
Sure did.
Yep. In those forms.
Right. Absolutely.
So nice to know all this.
Yeah. And then I thought I fixed that one. But basically the the quarry, after the locks and all the dams are all built, they didn't really need
They didn't
that
even
type
rocks
of
from there.
rock anymore. So October 31st, 1914 is when they ceased um, operations at the quarry.
Yep, Halloween.
Halloween.
Halloween, right there. And that's, of course, is not a picture of
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what happened to the picture I replaced it with, but that's what happens when you use AI. They get a little
Wonky.
creative on their things, and so no matter how hard you try, sometimes you don't succeed.
No, yeah.
But-
You always got to check with AI. The other day I went to a meeting and AI gave me the wrong information. That was
Right.
Oh yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so there you go. You can see in this image right there, that's basically what you're looking at. That's what
Yep.
Ancon Hill looks like in concrete form.
Right. That's
Yeah.
all Ancon Hill there.
That's Ancon Hill 100 and something years later.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still there.
Thank you
But
very much.
you don't think about that. You just think it's just cement, right?
Correct.
Right. Well, and I bet a lot of people, our age group and stuff, growing up in the zone, not knowing this stuff, you just assume that that's the way Ancon Hill was. It just had a rock face on it. And no, we made that. That was created by us digging and
What the
tearing all
canal
that down.
made, yeah.
You
That's
didn't
the
go to
canal
Home-
scar. That should be called the canal scar. How's that?
Yeah, right.
You didn't go to Home Depot and buy it. You had to make it yourself.
That's
You had to go
exactly right.
crush your own rocks.
They didn't have a squad of bag terrors that just rip open bags and pour out concrete.
These guys had to figure out where's the material that's good enough. How do we get it from A to B?
Geologists.
And how does it all work together? And they had to do it pretty quick.
No, it's an incredible operation. When you look at it, in its entirety, there are so many moving parts. There are so many logistical pieces that you have to touch. You're talking to somebody in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in California, up in New York, maybe down in South America somewhere there was probably some materials needed or something there as well. In the interior, you got somebody going to Chame and finding, hey, there's a beach there, great sand there. How the hell did you find that versus somewhere else just up the street? So it's amazing how many people got involved.
People did. And then you hear about, what greatest engineering feats of all.
Mm-hmm.
But until you start looking at these small details,
right,
you don't have to realize how fine of engineering they had to do to pull this off.
And it explains why you needed a commission, an Isthmian Canal Commission, to do this, because one person would not have all this expertise. You have people with all kinds of different levels of expertise and knowledge that all came together and said, wait a minute, this is what will build effective homes in Balboa. This will build a great causeway. This will make the concrete stronger over here. This will be, it's an incredible operation. And to think this is done in 1904, not in 2025, mind you.
I know the U.S. was new. The U.S. wasn't even that old.
They had.
I think that was their first biggest project.
Like I said the other day, this is the United States coming out party to the world. This is showing them what America was capable of doing. The biggest and the best. It's amazing, man. Absolutely amazing.
A lot of this stuff they had to figure out how to do on the fly, like the meter gates on the locks. Those were built. We talked about it before, and the specifications kept on changing. And these guys are building these in Pittsburgh, and that's a long way from Panama.
Yeah, no kidding.
We got to build these things, take them apart, and then rebuild them when we get down there, and they have to fit within like a quarter inch.
Right. If that.
Basically, they built it to be like a ship. A ship is a bunch of steel, but it floats. And
Correct.
It's the same thing with those gates. They decided they would build it like a ship. So each one of those panels and stuff, but it had never been done before.
No. There's so many firsts and so many innovations that came out of this. The largest, like you said earlier, the largest crane, and just so many of those things. The largest dredge, as Ricky likes to refer to the Nazi dredge. Which, by the way, guys, I don't know if I told you this, Ricky, but I was researching on that, and we kid around and you kept calling it the Nazi dredge. Turns out it really was. It was built by the Nazis. It was captured by the U.S. military, And when they had the inventory, they're like, "Well, hey, let's move this into Panama. They could use it down there." But
I'm not a bochinchero for nothing, my friend.
I made the point of saying, well, I don't know if it was a Nazi crane per se or dredge per se, but
But it
turns out
was,
it
man.
actually was. 100%.
It was under Hitler that they built that,
Yes,
man. Hitler's like,
Yeah,
let's go. Let's build this and send it to the Panama Canal. Ah, great idea.
they captured it. Yeah.
Fascinating.
It's
So
still there.
that was Dave's contribution to the May Panama Canal month, because again, without all those rocks and all that concrete making equipment, we got a ditch, basically a Suez Canal, right? I mean, if just a ditch is dug out, and it obviously wouldn't have worked.
So what did they do with all the dirt that they took out? They just I mean, I get the rocks. How about the dirt? Any history
They
on
had
that?
some dump areas for that. They had that. I did some reading on that. It was very interesting that they had some areas that they would dump dirt, and it started to become a problem.
Oh,
And
like
they actually-
Balboa and stuff like that.
Well, it was in some other areas. There were some specified dump areas, but they started to accumulate, and with the rain and the mud, it made it impossible to then move it out of there. They actually had to come up with an ingenious way of making dynamite trenches and blowing it all up to get it to wash down with rivers eventually. Because you're right, that was a big deal. Was with the rocks? They knew it. In fact, they wanted rocks because that was a good foundation, but the dirt was a whole different story, and they had some issues with that. We'll cover that with our dredging piece, because we did do it slightly last month on it, but that was a big deal for the dredging division, was the actual dirt itself, where to move it, what to do with it, because it was a lot, man.
It was a lot, right? Yeah.
So I see in the comments, Leaf is asking about the cemetery at Ancon, and when you look at the old maps, we talked about it in a show a couple months back. Where Ridge Road is where the cemetery was.
Right.
And when you look at these maps that I showed, like with the crusher on it, there's no indication that there was ever a cemetery in that location.
Okay.
But on Ridge Road there was, and you can see the photographs of it, and they talk about it in different.
Yeah, you
places.
showed us the pictures. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like right behind on the jungle side of the administration building.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the next hill over.
Right,
And
right.
I mean, there were like 5,000 graves there.
Oh, where your good friend the Wagners lived.
Wagners lived there. Paynes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Now, we're going to switch gears, though, because this is another piece that, like Dave mentioned, is very appropriate based on that big shindig Saturday night at the Canal reunion, Pan Canal Society reunion, which is that whole soiree, the Tivoli soiree. And so you got to know what the Tivoli is if you're going to talk about the Tivoli soiree here. So, Dave, tell us about the Tivoli Hotel, man.
All right. Well, you've probably heard about the Tivoli. I know I went to it one time when I was, it closed in 1971, and so I would have been 6. But I do remember going to it one time. But then it got torn down, and so I can't really say that.
Yeah, I think I remember like one brunch with my family too. One or
I
two.
don't remember.
brunches.
I just remember having knowledge of it, but never have I recall visiting it. Or honestly, I don't remember even driving by. I'm sure I probably did, but I was, 71. I was 4 years old. So.
I have some of the silver from it, and I spend my
right
morning
on.
coffee with it every morning, and have a plate hanging on the wall. But we always heard about the Tivoli, but if you're probably younger than me, you probably never saw it.
No.
And
it was a big
I
field.
guess if you're a little bit older, then maybe you went there. But back in the day, the Tivoli Hotel was the social scene for Canal Zone. It was the place to be. And its history, though, was, we mentioned May 4th, 1904, Canal Zone starts, and then 1905, early 1905, the ICC said, back then, the headquarters was in Panama City. The ICC headquarters was that building down in Panama before they moved it to Empire.
And that was in Casco Viejo, wasn't it?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
And then you had the hospital,
right?
And so Ancon was kind of like the activity area, and so they decided they needed worker housing. They were going to build basically a dormitory, for workers. And it was supposed to be I can't remember, like a metal and plaster building or something like that.
Okay.
And
Something basic.
and
No. It was actually going to be like a lot of frills at first, using modern technology, like Dave just mentioned, metal and plaster.
Okay.
but when Stevens came on board, he said, "No, this thing's going to be built out of wood, stick built wood, no frills. This was a temporary structure,
Right.
for housing workers. But then then life happens. But
Right.
Well, research I looked, they had all the intentions to convert it later to a luxury resort. Stevens was concerned that it would have been too burdening for Panamanians to look at because they still hadn't built hotels of this caliber. And guys, at one point, this hotel was probably the number one hotel in the world. Kings stay there. The very, very, very first guest to stay there was Teddy Roosevelt.
Right on.
So yeah, it was. It has quite the story. And now, Dave, you continue, and I'll because it's your show. Set in June, I'll give you guys some more background on it.
So you mentioned Teddy Roosevelt. So in about 6 weeks before Teddy Roosevelt came to Panama, which is November of 06, they get the word that he's coming, and he doesn't want to stay at the director's house, the governor's house. He wants to stay at the hotel. Well, it wasn't finished yet, so they had 6 weeks to get this thing, ready. And I would imagine they didn't quite finish everything, but they did get it set up, and they set up a room which ended up being called the Roosevelt Suite.
Okay.
So you hear a presidential suite. Well, this Tivoli Hotel had the Roosevelt Suite, and the Roosevelts stayed there, and they are identified as the first guests. But in my research, it shows that a couple days before, that the ICC chairman and like one
family.
his wife and his staff, like 2 other people stayed there a couple days first. But again, maybe the logbook got lost and it was Teddy Roosevelt that was the first.
Right.
No, the first guys were just the trial run, the dry run.
Teddy walked up the sign there and he goes, "Wait a minute, there's somebody on that space one. Give me another book."
Yeah.
But when he stayed there, they didn't even have hot water. Yeah,
Right.
hot water wasn't even provided until 1911.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, and it didn't have an elevator. The elevator is in 1911. But
Remodel, right.
but what they ended up doing when Teddy Roosevelt came on his trip, they stopped the train in the Canal Zone so he could get to the hotel without having to be in Panama
Interesting.
to go up, because the train station stop was in Panama.
Right. That's right. It sure was.
But and then when he went to visit, he did a speech on Cathedral Square, and marched down Central Avenue from the Tivoli. He stayed there 2 nights. So it was the first time the president ever left the United States.
Yep.
And he was named the first guest of the Tivoli, and spent there two nights. And how many places do you go where you see, like, George Washington slept here and all that other stuff?
Yeah, right. Kidding.
We'd never really talked about that so
No.
much. But
No, not at all.
but then it talks about in some of the books that the Roosevelt Suite was above a room that was known as the Fern Room. So I'd imagine they probably had some potted ferns in there or something like that, in an area that if you went there you probably knew. And then they also had something.
Well, remember the fern played a big role in the canals, and we learned that last week.
Did you?
The fern played a big role in getting rid of sandflies.
All right.
That there was something that the fern emitted that that those areas of swamps that had a lot of these ferns had no sandflies, and they realized, wait a minute, all these chemicals and crap we're trying to do, all we need is ferns.
Yeah,
and so maybe
Hawaii's
that's
full of ferns. Yeah, no, that makes sense, because if you go to Hawaii, ferns everywhere.
Yeah,
and that's
what they just by chance they started looking around and going, wait a minute, this area here, there's hardly any sandflies, and it's all these ferns. Wait a minute, are there ferns doing it?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So.
But again, I was there when I was 6, so I can't confirm or deny this. But the building was made out of wood and it had tile roof, and then and I guess I lived in the 4-family houses, and you could see the studs on the inside of the house.
Right.
And what I read was that for these buildings that were built that way, they only had like exterior sheathing.
Yeah. Hawaii, same thing. They call it single frame construction.
And the reason they did that is because as soon as you put sheathing on the inside, then the rats live in there.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Yeah. Single
Sure.
frame
Like,
construction
yeah,
and Hawaii's built the same way, guys.
It's a way to get out of the elements, so you look for those kind of interior.
And it helps the hot air get out too, and it doesn't trap it.
So I mean, these are very basic buildings. I mean, they were, I guess, strong, but they weren't necessarily built to be luxury
or private.
To be functional.
Or private, because that's one of the complaints, that you can hear everything.
Yeah. But then they also had something called the pergola bar, which is very, very popular.
Very popular.
And the interesting thing I found out about the pergola bar is that it didn't serve alcohol until 1936.
Correct.
Wow, how about that?
And the other thing is that, I forgot to mention that Roosevelt was there in November of 1906, and then the Tivoli opened. Its first day of opening was January 1st of 1907, and so they had a New Year's party. Mm-hmm. So it opened up with party and Zonians, and they would have like 500 people at all their parties every time, which is just like a Friday night at the yacht club, right?
Amen, brother. That's what it's all about.
And wait, and these people all were coming from Gorgona, Frijoles, from those faraway towns that don't exist anymore.
They would come. They called them Tivoli clubs, and they would go to Tivoli, and probably like a group of people would go and party, and then some nights they said that the workers would like sleep on the billiard tables. I mean, just so many people there, they would just flop wherever they could find a spot.
Yes, the Canal Zone was dry, and that's why the bar that we spoke about a months ago on 4th of July was so popular with the Zonians, because that's what they would go drink.
And
because Panama was not dry.
Yeah, Panama wasn't dry, but the Canal Zone was.
Ricky mentioned that it had some very famous guests over the years, and originally when it was built, it was a commercial hotel, and so people could stay there. That ended in 1951, but February 15th, 1951. But they had the Duke of Windsor, who is King Charles's grandfather,
right,
stayed there. Neil Armstrong, Alan Shepard, the astronauts stayed there.
Lindbergh's, like you see the names there.
Yep.
John Barrymore, who is
famous actor.
Famous actor, and Drew Barrymore's grandfather.
Yep.
And so there's a long list of people. Well, basically, it was the only place to stay.
Yeah, all the celebrities. Yeah, and then in 51, Panama started building hotels.
Yeah.
And the Canal Zone was, cognizant of that to not compete against them.
So why would they? In all honesty, the Canal Zone wouldn't have any need for hotels of that kind of stature, So it made sense.
It was world renowned before that.
That's what I'm saying. But once they realized, like you say, that Panama's now getting into the hotel business and the hospitality business, why compete and create bad will?
Bad juju.
We don't really have a need for this thing because we don't. It's nice to have, but
the parties were amazing. God, like Dave did. I did the same research, and wow, when you read about the parties they had there,
soirees.
Oh my God, yeah.
One of the things that they also said is that, like, all the high school had its proms there and stuff like that. So in 1951, when they closed it, where did the high schools do their prom? Did they go to El Panama? Or
we gotta ask our old timers what's going on.
The Grundy wasn't built until 64 or so, 67.
In between there had to be where they go. Probably the clubhouse. No, maybe not.
But where'd they go?
Maybe the
Right.
clubhouse.
Be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Not
Anybody
that's my
know?
mom, 'cause
Yeah. I
She
got
was,
that.
she was like class of '53, so it was like, where did she have her prom at?
Right. Yeah.
But
Oh, interesting.
No. Oh, because it's up to 71, they were having proms there.
Really?
Because after 71,
Oh, that's right. It became the guest. It came the Tivoli guest house after 51.
51, right? The guest
51,
house.
71.
Okay. So it wasn't
So
a
it was
hotel, but it was
only
a place to visit.
workers, Canal Zone
Yeah.
workers, and family visiting. That's it. They were allowed
okay.
to stay there.
Right. So that's the
That makes
difference. So when you go on eBay or someplace and you see Tivoli China, some of
Buy
it will
it.
say guest house,
Oh yeah, it's
and
worth
some
money.
of it says Tivoli Hotel,
Yep.
and that's the difference.
Yeah, I would buy it. That's worth money, especially if it says
Yeah.
Tivoli Hotel,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah, well,
got
and there
the
again, you know, who
cachet.
knows who's actually used that China?
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you got all
yeah.
these names,
Exactly.
you know.
The British would buy it from you, they knowing that their royals
You
stay
might-
there.
You know, the King of England may have used that China.
Yeah, no kidding.
No kidding, man.
You know, and then of
Yeah.
course April 15th rolls around, and coincidentally tax day.
Mhm.
It's a day that the
You know,
era.
we got to do our proms in the Corundu Cafetorium, you know, so that's
Right.
hard, that's
Yeah,
hard
me
to beat.
too, yeah.
And that disco ball,
It's an upgrade.
come on, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I did get the chance to go to the Hotel Washington for Cristobal prom one time.
Did you? Wow, that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that was pretty amazing place.
No bad. Wow, look at you.
Yeah,
Sleeping with the enemy. Come on.
you got that right.
All for world diplomacy.
That's right. But what else was I going to say about? Oh, the food items that they had at the Tivoli. Listen to some of this stuff that they
Yes.
called early on in the day. Ancon turtle soup,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Tabernilla pickles, Mount Hope olives, Corazal potatoes, Culebra filet,
How about that? There you go.
Brazos Brooks asparagus,
Okay.
La Boca roast turkey,
Mm-hmm.
Pedro Miguel jelly, potted gatoon birds,
Wow.
Basa Bispo punch,
Look at these people.
Cristobal balls,
Hmm.
Marachin ice cream, Gorgona cake, Cologne cheese, Empire coffee, Cemetery Road cigarettes, and Las Cascadas cigars.
You forgot
wow.
one, the dessert, matachin ice cream.
You did say
I
it.
said that.
Oh, you did say it? Oh, I was waiting for it. I missed it. Thinking too much.
That came right after
Yeah, he did. He said it.
after
Matachin.
Cristobal balls.
Because that's the one that a lot of people are like.
Oh, because I was thinking Cristobal balls. Is this like the same thing as those mountain goat balls? No.
Rocky Mountain.
Rocky
Rocky Mountain oysters.
That was it. Rocky Mountain oysters. Oh my god.
That's
but
fascinating.
I was-
It's kind of cool that they themed it all, though, right? They gave it
Yeah.
a local name and stuff. I love that.
Yeah, it was Empire Coffee, Duran
Yeah.
Coffee.
Which I was going to say, of all of them, the Empire Coffee, you know,
And-
coffee is something that's supposed to be robust in power and Empire.
Yeah,
is
Well,
perfect.
tell us
cream.
about the soiree of the reunion. What did that menu sound like?
That's a
Same
menu
thing.
there.
Got names
Maybe
like
sound
that as
yet.
well.
Yeah, I've
It
got.
probably won't be any of these items. How's that?
No, but they do have names like that. Like, yeah. I have it here somewhere.
Yeah, it's
Have
hold
it
on.
right here.
I'm not planning that event, but
Oh, you're not planning. You're planning to go, right?
yeah, I'm on the board. But
Right.
Oh, I'm
but there are people more
promoting
talented
that.
than me that are doing that. But it's a new thing. So
Mhm.
if you go this year, make sure you get your ticket to go.
Yeah,
because-
and do the dinner and everything. Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know I have that around
It
here.
won't be the same old, same old.
Yeah,
No.
here it is. Okay, so here it is, a soiree. They've got so the menu selection: Sosa Hill Ropa Vieja, or Gold Coast Sofrito marinated salmon, or Rainforest plant-based Ropa Vieja for those that are in the vegan world.
Yep.
Entries are served with Summit Garden salad, coconut rice, black beans, and El Valle coffee tres leches.
All
There you
right.
go.
Tea, coffee, and
There you go.
decaf are included. So El Valle coffee tres leches is obviously a dessert. That's going to be a
I'm
cake.
sure those all sound like higher tier food items than what I just described. So
Well, I
Mr.
think yours was
McLaughlin,
the
good to see you.
Yours was the frills-free boarding house menu. This one here is the Tivoli hotel menu. If you want to compare the two, because that yours stuff sounds a little bit more no frills than this one does.
I don't know. I don't know.
But
I
even
never
if
had any of that stuff. But
and for what it's worth, for that ball, I mean, it is something that children can go to as well, because it's showing on here. Children's meals are $45 per child, and they include chicken fingers, French fries, fruit cup juice, and whatnot. Children under 12 will need to depart the dance by 10:30 though, so no owl show. Coach Cotton will be driving around in a undercover car to spot who's in that dance that's not supposed to be there. So,
but wherever
Dave, we got a
there's-
question from you, from Mr. Bill McLaughlin. Good to see you, Mr. Bill.
yes. Bill's been posting some really great pictures the last few days. Always does anyway. But some
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool
His
pictures.
website is
posted
unbelievable.
this in the show tonight. Thank you, Bill.
Yep.
Listen, why they had 4 bachelor quarters connected to the rear of the hotel?
Do tell, Dave.
Why did they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
4 bachelors.
I actually don't. I didn't read that, but it looked like to me on some of the images I saw that they were for the workers. It looked like they were connected to it, but it also could have been a virus.
Find that out, because I mean, for workers, you'd think you'd have to have more than 4. 4 is kind of a
For the
strange number to
bachelors?
have.
They were thinking ahead when I was going to be born.
Look at Akira. Yes, it is. Good morning, Akira. But yes, it does sound good, doesn't it?
But the cheap ice cream. Yeah,
all right.
I wonder if it was this butter brickle with something else.
It was, whatever the ice cream was, it was made by the Panama Canal Company. Or
That's
whatever
right. That's what I'm saying.
ice
Butter
cream
brickle with Neapolitan or
from
something.
Mount Hope Creamery there.
Yeah.
They made some good ice cream. And you can actually read in the Canal record, and they will tell you what flavors are available.
Oh yeah. Listen, the Canal records were meticulous. I mean, they captured everything. If you want to know what life was like in the Canal Zone in 1905, 1907, go through those Canal records, because they talk about everything. They even have we talked about it briefly last week, where Goethals on Sundays, he was like Judge Wapner. He would have a court session where people would come in, and I mean, it was something as simple as, "Hey, man, my boss is a pain in the ass, man, and this, that, and the other. If you got a grievance with the supervisor, bring it here." But like he said, other than the President of the United States, my word is final when you do these things, But all of that stuff is in those Canal records. I mean, they really that was the, like Ricky's said in the past, that was the social media, that was the Facebook, and the way that people stayed connected and stayed in touch with the world was that Canal record, and it's a fascinating way to learn about the history of
that Canal record is. I mean, the number of pages that go in it's got to be tens of thousands of pages.
Yes.
That's why,
absolutely.
When you read like Path Between the Seas, it's only 600 pages. It's not even one volume when you look online. It's like there's just no way you can get the whole story of the Canal Zone just reading that, and that's why we can talk for an hour or more on.
That book. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about that book.
Yeah.
But I know it's an important book.
It's kind of like the one that is most known, because I guess
it has a good historical. I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
There are some things on it that, you're right. Okay,
It makes the Zonians look pretty bad, in my opinion.
Ultimately, as far as just the project of the canal, it's not far off, in that sense. But yes, a lot of the emotional component of it, maybe the why some things were done, and that to this day is still, a lot of people debate the gold silver roll. What really was behind that? Was it really driven by racism? Was it driven by?
No, we have already learned here it wasn't.
That's what I'm saying, but that's what I mean. Is some of that stuff? There are different variances of it. But the fact of, like, what we learned tonight, that you crushed the rock and you made it this and that and you took it here, that didn't change whether it was for good reasons or not. That was the actual history, and that's the piece that this Canal record is just absolutely meticulous about. You can totally get the entire story of that canal reading those records, and they're fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, it'll tell you the size of the engine that was the train, the model of the train, how many wheels it had, how many horsepower it had.
Oh, I've seen
plans
of the train.
That I found that's really interesting in those, because that was almost. They're also like their spillway newspaper, right? That was a weekly publication. And one of the things that they talked about that was a big competition was which steam shovel could do the most work. And they would put, you're talking about standings. It wasn't the Yankees and the Mets and
Goliath versus.
Yes, it was. It was teams competing to see who was scooping up more dirt this month.
They also had the Atlantic versus Pacific, but also some of it was civilian and military.
Certainly.
So they were always like competing against each other. and
which was the
interesting.
early versions of what we ended up doing. Playing against the Clayton Cowboys and the Kiwanis Colts, Howard
that's
Eagles.
the whole Canal Zone DNA, man. It's
a
us,
competitive, but a friendly competitive, but it makes things better.
Yeah, to make things better, right?
So I'm looking at my notes, and the one thing I forgot to say about after the Ancon Quarry closed October 31st, 1914, that on January 6th of 1915, the military was out at Camp Otis, I can't remember the name of it, but they moved it. They called it the United States Troops Panama Canal Zone, and it was Consolidated Command, and the headquarters were moved to Coy Heights. It was going to be a U.S. Marine reservation. But in February of 14, or the U.S. got into a conflict with Mexico, the Tampico conflict, and they sent the Marines to Mexico. And so it didn't become a Marine base; it became this United Command headquarters.
Right.
So you can find maps and it'll say U.S. Marine Reservation, but it never happened.
Never came to be.
Never materialized.
Those other world events, and the Panama Canal got interrupted by other world events all the time. The opening and
that's got to be the biggest. To me, the biggest disappointment was I never put those two together until we started talking about it here. That you go through such an incredible feat for 10 years of building the most incredible project that mankind has seen. Right. And the fanfare that's coming with that and all the celebrations, all of a sudden, we got a world war, man. Forget about that. That had to be tremendously disappointing to the Zonians that worked on the canal, that their chance to shine and be celebrated by the world was suddenly just put on the back shelf because of war.
I think what they found is that there were so many challenges that you couldn't dwell on the last challenge. There was always something new to conquer.
Right.
And they just persevered and pushed on.
And that became the mindset. You're right. Move on. Next.
They just did it. It's like, let's get rid of this.
Let's go on to the next. What's it? We have another topic, or did we reach our?
Well, that was it. That was it.
We're done. We're just getting my last slide, which is a thank you, I guess. Right?
Yeah. No, it was. Absolutely. No, listen, it was some absolutely fascinating stuff here. And again, Dave, thanks for putting all this stuff together, especially that beginning piece of the piece that linked with the Panama Canal construction, because that was our focus this month. But that's one of those things that we don't look at. There's all those smaller pieces, right? Where did you get your concrete, right? You look at modern day. Our world today, if any of us works with concrete, it's either one of them trucks with the big spinning tank on the back, or you go to Home Depot and you get about 3 or 4 bags and you tear them open. Not at this scale, man. You had to have an entire factory and almost a town just to make concrete, right? And to just see what they were doing, for example, again in Gatun with those big gantries, that was a massive concrete operation there. Because you're talking, I would assume, and we'll learn it when Jim Duffus comes on. Absolutely, Chris, you're welcome. Yeah, Chris won that Howler Monkey dog. But I would imagine that the Gatun locks are close to about a mile long, wouldn't you say? Is that a fair assessment?
In between them, between Gatun and Miraflores is a mile.
Huh?
Yeah.
3 miles. Gatun and Miraflores is a mile.
Mm-hmm. No. Gatun and Miraflores is like.
Oh no. Pedro Miguel Paraíso. And
no. I'm saying just the old lock system in Gatun, from the beginning of it to the end of it, when you hit the Gatun Lake, is that about a mile long? Because it is all 3 locks are there in that one, versus Miraflores and Pedro Miguel that they split it over 2 of them. But point is that it was just so much to build in that one small section that that concrete operation there was massive. That was an entire concrete factory there just to build that lock section. And then you got the Gatun Dam right next to it.
Dave, everybody loves you, man. David, thank you, David, man. You do such an awesome job, brother.
Man, for sure.
And sorry for all the clapping, but you deserve every single standing ovation, David.
You mentioned the Canal record. Do yourself a favor and read those, and then do yourself another favor. Go to Canal Zone Brats, go to Canal Zone Images. They've got so much stuff. Every time I go to look for something, they already did it. So,
right. No, you're absolutely right. It is, and even listen, even just going and looking at CZ Images, you go to that website. just looking at the pictures, some of them have captions below them, but that in itself is a history journey, because there's so much cool stuff there. And the beauty of it is that for us, we grew up down there, so we recognize what it is. We have a reference point and some context for it, so it really makes it enjoyable to see those things and go, "Ooh, I remember that."
I guarantee you, you're gonna you go on there, you're gonna find something you didn't know.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And this is where that Notebook LM works amazing, because you load those canal reports into there, and then you just use the AI and ask it questions, because the only source it goes after is those reports. It's not going to find some other bogus Wikipedia comment, but there's where you really learn the ins and outs of these operations, because as we just said before, the Isthmian Canal Commission kept amazing records, and they were very transparent. They wanted the whole world to know what they were doing, how they were doing it, and they got high praise for it, because they had a lot of great success with this. So, yeah, good job again, David. As always, man, we love having these Canal Zone history lessons, because they're always aha moments. There's never one of these where we don't walk away going, "Wow, that was cool."
I know, man. I swear, the best, man. David, thank you so much. By the way, if you guys have been watching this show, I think by now we all deserve to get at least a master's degree now in Canal Zone history.
Listen, if you watch at least 4 months of Dave's Canal Zone history, you definitely, at least at that point, have an equivalent of an associate's degree.
Or more, yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, we'll go to doctorate if we have to here.
Well, I mean, the engineering is getting us there. We know that we needed 3,438,000.
And exciting news for next month, that we're going to go into a new architecture feature that our resident Art Vandalay award winner Ricky Royo is going to talk to us about the architecture in the Canal Zone. Going to feature a lot of things from Edith Barkowitz Crouch's book, The Architecture of the Canal Zone, which is a incredible book. Incredible book. So,
yeah, and if there's any buildings you guys really want to know about, let me know. Like I said, the first 3 we're going to cover the Tivoli, which is an iconic building that needs to have the coverage that we're giving it. Thank you, David, by the way. Yeah, and then the Pilots building on Balboa Avenue, that beautiful home, 2-story home next to the KC. And the third one is what we know as the library, which is the civil affairs building. Yeah. So for us, it's where the drive-in was and where the library was. So we're gonna.
And the one iconic thing about that one to me is always that round stained glass.
Oh yeah, absolutely, with all the flags.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another iconic.
So those will be the three, and then hopefully, if Willie Lesby do it once a month, or if not, maybe once every 2 months.
Listen, I think we're way over. There you go. That's exactly it right there. Dave's holding it up. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Someone's selling these. It's a window cling.
I love it.
Yeah, I love that thing too. Hey, Chris, so cool. Look for czimages.com.
Yeah, czimages.com. Just a great, dude, you're talking a massive collection of photos. A massive
yeah, you can easily spend 2 hours going through every single one.
Sure.
And CZ Brats, both of them, they have, and not only do they have the pictures, they have the stories that go with them.
Correct. Yes.
So, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah. Now, Dave, what do we got in June? What's in store for us in June?
More of the same.
What did it say? Right, great history.
I'm just gonna pick a topic like Tivoli, but it's just something in some building or some event, something that we all know but don't know the background of it.
Right.
Yeah, do that, and then I'll do the history afterwards.
Just do some digging, and
the architectural history afterwards.
Exactly, right. Which ones? Some stuff I have in my back pocket. Other stuff, I go down a rabbit hole and I'm just locked on it.
Yeah, no. Listen, you're the Paul Harvey here when it comes to these things, because we know the story, but now you know the rest of the story, right? Yeah, I love that. That's kind of cool. But
Paul Harvey, that's a Canal Zone.
Well, we're looking forward to it again, Dave. As usual, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule every first of the month to educate us on our home and the things that we didn't learn there. So looking forward to the next one, and again,
gracias, David.
You all the time
and your site.
So anyway, all right, Dave. Well, listen, take care of yourself. Have a great weekend, and we will see you in June.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, man. Cheers.
Gracias, David.
Happy Acquisition Day.
And say happy birthday to your brothers and sisters. Actually, happy birthday.
Right.
Hello.
Happy birthday, all of us. Yeah, in September, don't forget, and in October. But no, like you just said, happy acquisition day, guys, on Monday.
Happy acquisition.
And listen, let's do this on Monday, and you'll see you get the conversation going on social media. Go in on Monday and go, happy birthday, Canal Zone. And people will be like, what? Because you know what people are going to We use it August 14th.
August 14th, that's what everybody thinks.
Like, no, the Canal, but we're saying happy birthday, Canal Zone. And when did it start? Oh, let's go back. Hang tight, Dave.
Hang tight. We don't have to close this show. That's one thing. We don't have any mean sponsors that want us off by a certain time.
I saw this on Facebook, and I don't know if it's true or not, but
if it's about me, false.
August 15th, or actually it was before that. It was when the Gatun tug was going through the locks for the.
Oh yes. Hang on.
The other side, always first.
The Gatun was the first to go into the locks and stuff.
Give me one more second. Bam! Right. There we go. What are we talking about?
This is on the U.S. Navy Institute Facebook page, and they said all these people were there cheering on this tug, and the tug had all these Army officials on it, celebrating that the Gatun was going to be the first boat to go.
They're going down in history.
And then it said that there was a little rowboat with Marines in it that passed them.
They paddled, and look how they put it on it. 2 Marines in a canoe appeared and then paddled furiously to pass the tug and take the unofficial honor. And let me tell you what, they may have been Marines, but something tells me that those Marines might have been born in the Canal Zone and then joined the Marines, because that is a Zonian thing to do there. As we've learned that there was a Cayuca race crew that snuck out at the last on the last stretch and came out of the French cut or something, and the next thing you know, they're up in front, and people are like, where the hell did this boat come from? And they kind of snuck into the last.
Wasn't that the Joyce? One of the Joyce was on that boat?
I believe it was.
The younger one, the
kind of reminds me of that.
Army and Navy have always had like fun rivalry against them. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it's just one of those things that maybe it is true.
That's hilarious. So that's
but
where
it doesn't make it in the history books. But now we have to rethink our history and say, was the Gatun really the first one to go through? Or
not
maybe
officially.
It was also a rowboat.
Not unofficially, I should say. Not unofficially.
But
and it's what the one history I like that you taught us tonight was the one piece that has never changed its operational methods since day one. Yes. That was awesome, Dave.
Yeah, because you have so much technology that goes into all this stuff as things have been upgraded, but yet the one true and tested way is paddle your ass out there and hand them the rope.
It's 1914, same thing. Right on, man. Do that job. I can't wait to talk to Andrew about it. Find out more. Who gets this job? Is it a wanted job, or is it a low paying job, or
There's not a lot of information about it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
all
you.
right, Dave. Cheers. You have a great weekend. We'll talk to you, brother.
John Canzero, thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of great information on it, and very appropriate, the whole Tivoli thing. You're bringing that in on next month as well. And then, we've talked about it, with the reunion and the whole Tivoli soiree. And really, that is a big deal, guys. This is something, I think that the Saturday night Tivoli soiree is what this year's board
Saturday is going to be like.
It's going to be their signature event that they're bringing that in, because that is kind of a change from what's been going on typically in recent reunions. So this is kind of their signature on it, man. So give them some love, give them some support. Make sure you make it out there, because let's make it a really cool event that people show up dressed up, and like Ricky and I have said, let's make it your prom, especially class of '81, class of '86. Let's make that our senior prom. Go out that Saturday night, get dressed up.
Yeah, get all dressed up,
and
we'll see.
Go have a dinner, get a nice class picture going or something, and have a good time, man. So, Akita, thank you.
Bring that soiree back.
Yeah, no kidding, man. So, anyhow, but don't forget, guys, the rest of this month is all Panama Canal history or Panama Canal information, right? Next week, I got a couple of different options here. And we will see which one we're going to have. There's a red bus going by. I believe it's Jim Duffus. If not, it'll be the following week. But anyhow, it's going to be some great Panama Canal coverage. So have a great weekend, everybody. I'm not sure if there's no sound there, but anyhow, Ricky, get us out of here, man.
Thank you, everybody. Again, thank you for all the comments, all the participation. We love you guys so much. You guys make this totally worthwhile. And next week we'll be here again with the same great show, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Really.
Right on,
Guys.
right on. Hold on, I was reading something. Bill McLaughlin sent me a message here. Thank you for these images. Plug got blown off. Okay, I have 10,000 times more info on. Yeah,
That's a
cool.
big Canal
Yeah,
Zone
he does.
personality there. Thank you for
And Bill
doing our
McLaughlin
show.
was, former president of society and former event planner. So he's always done
he is
great,
the number one historian too, by
but
far.
check out his site though, guys. CZ Images, because there's a lot of cool stuff to. But hey, let's get off the air, man. It's after the show.
Yeah,
So
right on, Willie. Good show, man. Thanks, brother. I'll see you.
Yeah, man.